that trade really messed me up. And I stopped trading there and then for probably a couple months. I didn't stop looking at the charts. I just stopped trading. I couldn't trade.
Hello everyone, welcome back to another interview with one of our SFT funded traders. Today I have the pleasure of speaking with Joel. How are you doing today?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for asking. I like to start off with just seeing, how did you even get into trading?
Yeah, so I was thinking about this earlier because lately I've always thought that I got into trading like 2 or 3 years ago. But when I actually thought about it, I first got introduced to trading like I think it was 5 years ago. So it was way longer than I thought. But yeah, during the beginning, I was just introduced by a friend in high school. And we were sitting on I don't know if you know this site, but it's called Plus 500, which is we just demo traded. We didn't have any strategies. We just messed around and bought some stocks and just saw what happened. So yeah, I mean, that was my introduction to trading. I didn't really try anything beyond that at that time. But that was my first introduction. The first time that I really actually tried trading for real was after the COVID crash during 2020. But yeah, risk averse like I am, I started a demo account. I didn't try to lose all my money from the get-go, right? So yeah. So I opened an account with the IG Markets, and my first thought was just to trade the Swedish stock index. So that's what I tried, and obviously it was demo, so there was no real risk to it. I tried to remember what strategy I used at this point, but I really have no memory of it. So I'm guessing it was just some indicator-based strategy or something like that. Fairly simple. That's my thought. I mean, but when I started, so after high school, I started uni, right? So I'm studying economics and finance. And it was at that point that I actually got interested in financial markets. I didn't necessarily agree with what the book said and what the professors taught, especially in the finance classes. It didn't sit right with me that no one was talking about when to buy stocks or when to sell stocks. It was all about like how to build the correct portfolio for diversification and all that, right? And my thought has always been, but shouldn't you be able to time the market too? So my interest in the markets grew from there, and I started to look beyond school. So already from before, I had an account on TradingView, so I just started looking at charts and just tried to figure out what was happening really. Yeah, so I mean, it's from that point. So this was like 2022, 2021 during the autumn there. And this is when I would consider I actually started trying to become a trader.
Right.
Yeah, so that's basically it.
Okay. And you were saying like before, you don't even remember how you were trading. So how did you, what steps did you take when you wanted to really dive into it as far as learning a new strategy?
Okay, so like I said, I don't remember what I first traded, what my strategy was, but I do remember how my approach for because I haven't been trading consistently ever since, right? Then I probably would have become profitable way sooner. But once I realized I wasn't profitable with whatever strategy I'd used, I hopped on to another one. The first model that really resonated with me was the Elliot Wave principle, right? So if you, I think a lot of traders have read that book. It's from the 70s, I think. So I spent like a year just studying Elliot Wave, and I found it fascinating, which is kind of the problem, I think. You shouldn't find trading fascinating, right? So I never found any consistency with whatever strategy I tried to develop around that model. Although it's still helpful in my trading today because of what I learned, like the logic thinking in trading, like go against the crowd and all that. So the psychology behind trading, that I will always take away from the Elliot Wave teachings. But so my approach was always this. Okay, so I developed a strategy, I back tested it, it worked well, obviously, because it's in a lot of times in hindsight. But once I actually went live with it, I mean, I ran into a lot of problems. And now I probably think it was more due to mental and psychology issues rather than actual trading itself, or the strategy.
How did you come across that book?
I mean, the book, Elliot Wave, it was probably just some dude on Instagram or something that was doing Elliot Wave, so I researched it from that. But I honestly don't remember who introduced me to it. But yeah, so Elliot Wave was the first, my first trading love, so to speak. But yeah, so I jumped across a lot of different strategies, and nothing really clicked or worked. So I took a lot of breaks, which obviously meant I wasn't trading all the time. I wasn't getting exposed to the markets. I certainly looked at the markets. But yeah, so it wasn't until, was it last year? Yes, like the summer of 2022. So at this point, I've been trading on and off and just doing technical analysis a lot, but hadn't found any consistency. So during the summer of 2022, I found out about another kind of model, which is SMC, which I later found out it was called ICT, like the inner circle trader, right? And as I've already been introduced to Elliot Wave before that, that way of thinking in the market already resonated with me. So the ICT models, they just seem to be more like practical, easier to actually utilize in the markets. Whereas Elliot Wave was way too subjective. The ICT's teachings, I mean, he himself calls it technical science, right? He doesn't call it technical analysis. And I kind of agree with him. There's a lot of precision if you're really good at it. So certainly there is something there, obviously.
Yeah. And before you got to that point, you were saying you were going through all these different strategies and they weren't working. Sometimes traders are told, okay, stick with the strategy. Sometimes it's just, you need to keep going with it, stay consistent, and actually like adapt to that strategy. Like you just learned it, don't just keep switching. Strategy hopping is what they call it. So
yeah,
in your process, how did you kind of determine, okay, I'm not strategy hopping, it's just not working for me?
The thing is, I was strategy hopping 100%. Yeah. But I mean, if you're gonna speak to someone who's been trading or trying or learning to trade like for half a year or 1 year or whatever, right? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you tell that person, because that person's gonna make every mistake you warn them about, and that's just the journey for everyone. And I don't think there's a way around that, not unless you have like a strict mentor who's watching every step you make, right? So looking back at my journey up to this point, I don't think I could have handled it any different than I did, because I needed to go through all those mistakes, because without those mistakes, I wouldn't be able to learn from them, right? You need to go through trial and error. That's the most important part of the trader's journey. Yeah.
All right. And it seems like, correct me if I'm wrong, you've been on this journey kind of solo. I haven't heard you say like anything about a mentor. What's that like, not having a mentor? Do you have one?
I mean, I do have a mentor currently. He's a performance coach, so that's like for psychology. So it's psychology teachings and check-ins, right? So someone who's there to make sure that I'm doing my job.
Yeah.
But yeah, like technical analysis wise, I have been like in someone's Discord or whatever for like a month or two tops, but I've never found anything that I actually liked. I always thought that these are just people. There never been anything wrong with the mentors itself, with the mentors themselves. It's always been the people in the Discord. Unfortunately, when you go into these kinds of groups, there's a lot of people who should not be traders at all. They do not know how to take this sort of work seriously.
Yeah.
They don't want to listen when someone tells them they're doing something wrong or whatever. So I never really liked that environment, which I'm very grateful for.
Yeah.
But yeah, so once I found ICT and I just started his YouTube channel. I mean, everything is free. We truly live in the best time to become a trader.
Yeah, definitely.
So he's got a whole library of everything you need to know. And obviously you can follow him. I mean, he's not gonna be on Twitter after, I think it's in November. He's gonna stop with his Twitter, so you can follow him there. But his YouTube will always be there, and there's a lot of people trading ICT, so there's gonna be a lot of people who can teach you ICT. So
yeah,
I mean, everyone who is in the space knows several people, right? I mean, you have the leaders of SFT. Those guys are perfect examples of what you can accomplish with ICT. So yeah.
Nice. Okay. Well, what do you do outside of trading? What's your life like outside of trading?
So currently I'm still in school. I'm in uni, so I study economics and finance. I'm doing my last year right now. So that's, I mean, so from that and trading, that basically takes up all my time. Which I'm fine with. That's not an issue at all. But yeah, that's my life really.
So just trading and finance, nothing outside of that. Okay. Do you wish you had more of like a life trade balance, or how does that like?
I mean, sure, so at some point in the future maybe, but what I actually have found out now that I've been consistent for some time is that when I'm in the periods of life, like let's say I have a lot of exams or whatever, right? That's when I do my best trading. It's when I have the most stuff to do, that's when I'm best in front of the charts, because I do not spend any time that I cannot afford in front of the chart. So I need to be very decisive, and I really need to plan all my trades beforehand. So basically, if I have something else going on, I spend less time in front of the charts during the days, which means I get to keep more money.
Right.
It's very hard. It's very hard for me to overtrade. Yeah, basically like that.
Yeah. And that's an interesting perspective. Like, you're on the opposite of most people that I've been interviewing, where they're like, no, I have to kind of step away and just have like a, go outside or just do like an activity and not be so in front of the charts all the time, where you're like, yeah, I'm not in front of the charts all the time. I'm super busy. It's like I'm not relaxing. I'm not like out swimming or something like that. So it's like your mind is constantly going, but it works for you because, like you said, if I'm going to be on the charts, I need to be particular what I'm actually doing.
Yeah. I mean, that's 100% it. I mean, if you're at the charts and you're let's say you're telling yourself, yeah, I'm not gonna trade today because of whatever reason, and then you're sitting at the charts. I mean, it's gonna drain your drain your performance if you're just sitting there when you shouldn't, right? There's no reason to be at the charts when you're not trading, really. That's time you should reserve for like maybe a couple times a week when you do your weekly outlook or whatever, right? Or when you're journaling your trades during the evening. That's the time you can sit in front of the charts when you're not trading.
All right.
Otherwise, during the day, just stay away from the charts. That would be my number one tip.
Right. How do you feel like that has helped or hindered your psychology?
I mean, just staying away from the charts, there's no real downside to that. So I would say there's only upside for action like that. I mean, I can say that almost every time that I have had some sort of mental issue when trading, it always comes back to spending time in front of the charts when I shouldn't do that. So I don't currently have an issue with overtrading, but I had that before, and it would have been really easy to solve just by planning my time in front of the charts. Because if I'm trading the lower time frames, there's going to be a setup. There's not going to be a setup every minute, but my mind's going to make me believe that there's a setup every minute, because I'm a new trader. I want to trade. I want to make it now, and I want to make it fast.
Yeah.
So that's the mindset of a lot of people, and that was the mindset for me too. So you're just gonna realize that more does not equate to more. More time in front of the screen does not equate to more profits or that you learn more in trading. It just doesn't work that way.
Right. So what would you say your biggest challenge right now is within your trading?
One of the biggest challenges is it's probably still to think long term. I do not believe in the get rich quick thing anymore. I really don't. But it's still, sometimes I find myself hoping that a trade will become a winner, right? And what that means is just I'm not thinking long term, because trading is a probabilities game, right? So why should I care if my next trade is a loser or winner? Because if I believe my edge is working, it doesn't matter in the long run. So obviously, like most people, that thought still comes to my mind sometimes, right?
Yeah.
I just need to be aware of it. That's all. As long as you are aware of your emotions and your feelings, that's fine. Because guess what? I mean, you can have a technical strategy. You can have a strategy for your trading on the chart. We can also have a plan for your psychology, right?
Yeah.
So you can, just like you can map out different steps in your trading, you can map out or just like you can map out confluences in your chart, you can map out confluences like in your mind or your emotions or whatever. So if you find yourself saying that you're hoping you will get a winner, that's one confluence that could lead to you that you need to stop trading or something like that. So you need to have a plan for both sides of trading.
Interesting. Yeah, I've never heard anyone say a confluence for your psychology, but that's a great point. That's a great point. Okay. Well, let me see here. I just completely lost my train of thought in that moment. Let's see. What was I about to say? Oh, got it. Off camera, we were speaking a little bit about a challenge you're working on with SFT. You're almost done with the challenge. Can you tell us about how you change your risk from your challenge with your funded account, or does the risk stay the same?
The risk stays the same.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I don't see the reason to treat them differently, because there is no difference really.
Okay. Are you going in with low risk, or some people do like the 0.5, or are you more like 1%, 2%?
Oh, a maximum of okay, so regularly I do 0.5%.
Okay.
Okay, I will say this: in a challenge, if I'm up 2 or 3%, I'm allowing myself to take a 1% risk. just because I have the buffer. But like when I'm in drawdown, or when I'm starting from scratch, I'm just doing 0.5%. If I go into like 2 or 3% drawdown, I cut my risk in half, because a drawdown might not just be because of the market or the technical issues. It might be just your mind. And if you just keep on losing, your drawdown is going to get so deep that you will never be able to climb out of it. So just cutting your risk there, it makes everything so much easier.
Yeah, right. Okay, well, do you mind sharing your screen and kind of going over how you view the market?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
All right. So like I mentioned earlier, I'm currently trading Forex. So the number one chart I'm looking at is DXY, the dollar chart, which is on the right. And my favorite pair to trade is the euro dollar, which is on the left. So I guess we can just go through the current week, what I've done so far. So I have taken I've taken 2 losses and one winner so far. So we can go through those trades. So the thought process for me, as an ICT trader, is I'm trading the daily expansion, or rather the weekly expansion. So if you can recall how a candle forms, often after a candle opens, it will go, if it's a bullish candle, right, it will go down, creating the wick, and then it will go up, creating a wick, and then close a little bit lower. So that's usually how a candle forms. Right. So ICT teaches you to just think in those terms when trading. So I just look at the economic calendar, see what news is it this week. Are there any news to avoid? Are there any news that you would want to trade? Because news are a great confluence when trading. Obviously, I don't really look at the numbers of the news. I just want to know if there are news. Right. Okay. So yeah, let's just look at the dollar chart here. We got a daily fair value gap that was created during the CPI release last Thursday, which ultimately meant we were holding this weekly fair value gap. So once we returned to this daily one, I wanted to go short on the foreign pairs, so euro dollar in this instance. And as you can see, just like we have a daily fair value gap on the dollar, we also had a daily fair value gap on euro dollar. So that was the one I was interested in shorting. So we can go
for our viewers that may not know, do you mind explaining fair value gap?
Okay, yeah. So a fair value gap, if we look at the right side chart here, it's when you have 3 candles, right? So we got the first candle here, then you got the second candle expanding to the upside, and then you got the third candle here, and between the first candle and the third candle there is a gap. That's basically the fair value gap. It's usually those gaps, if you're on the right side of the market, they tend to act like support or resistance. So yeah, that's a fair value gap. Got it. Yes, I'm gonna turn on executions here. So I'm trading with an Oanda demo account and copying from that. So that's the executions you can see here. Okay. So as price went into this daily bearish fair value gap on euro dollar, I was interested in shorting. So I took my first trade on Tuesday. Yeah, right here. Okay. And let's go down to the 30-minute chart. Okay. So during Monday, price reached this fair value gap that I was talking about. And after that, I just anticipate the price will go down and seek sell side, which is basically just lows, different lows here. So I noticed that we had this 1 hour bullish fair value gap here that we just broke down, and then we respected it as resistance going up to it again. So I wanted to short at this point. So after we got a displacement to the downside, we got another fair value gap, and I entered short there. And as you can see, it was a quick loss. But that's just what it was. It was a loss. I followed my plan. There's no issue with that. And I actually took a second trade during the same day, which then became a loss too. And I usually only take 2 trades per setup, so that was my limit for the day. So I just stopped and stopped looking at the charts for the day and waited to Wednesday. Which in hindsight was the correct thing to do, because the price was very choppy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I definitely. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Nah, you go ahead.
I was going to say, I appreciate the transparency for sure. And what time frame are you entering in?
So that depends. Okay, so I do all my analysis on the weekly, daily, and the higher, like 4 hours. And my entries are based off either 15, 30 minute or 1 hour.
Okay.
So it varies. What I'm usually entering in is a fair value gap. So if you take a look at the first trade that I mentioned here, this is a 30-minute fair value gap. The only reason I use that is because if you look at the 15-minute chart, there are 2 fair value gaps. We have one here and we have one here.
I see it.
So I'm just using whatever time frame that gives me the entry.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not anything anything special. It's just the way it is. But then on Wednesday, I actually caught a winner. So let's go through that. And there's actually an interesting scenario here, because this is where a lot of ICT traders would, in my opinion, go wrong. Because they see a high here and they see this high here, which failed to go higher. So it never broke that. And if it would have broken that high, ICT traders would have called that a buy side sweep, which would confluence with other stuff is a viable short. Even though it didn't do that, I still saw it as a short. And this is because the dollar index, I can show that. The dollar index did actually sweep its lows here. You can see that. So in my opinion, the dollar short leads. So whatever happens in dollar, that's what I'm going to trade in euro dollar. So at that point, I just waited for price to displace downwards, which is just a rapid move downwards. It created this fair value gap here. And that's what I entered on. So I went short here, and then I just let it run, took partials at around 2R and during market close, because I don't want to hold a large position overnight. And at that and overnight, I just put my stop. I think I put my stop right here. So during today's price action, I got stopped out on what was left on the position.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, that is how I approach this week in trading.
Nice. And one point that I love that you mentioned when you were talking about the 2 losses that you took, you were okay with losing those 2 losses because they still followed your trading plan. And honestly, that's my example of a confident trader, because like some people like, oh, well, you took a loss back to back, whatever the case may be. And then sometimes you may think to yourself like, oh, I'm failing. Something's wrong with my strategy. Let's switch. But you were okay. You're like, I back test this. I'm confident in this. I've seen my strategy work. And like you said, like the next day it played out with an even bigger move. So I wanted to give those kudos too. Yeah.
Yeah, you said it. I mean, it's not like I've always been confident with that. It's just I've been very open with my trading for a while now, and so I have an Instagram account where I just post all my trading and all my thoughts. So I've spent the last 2-3 months maybe updating that for everything I do, right? So I haven't posted, or should I say, I have posted every trade that I've taken, every loss, every winner, and that is a great way of just helping myself be accountable to my trading. So
keep accountable.
Yeah, so if I say something there, I need to stay true to that, or otherwise I will look like a fool, right?
Yeah.
So every time I've said I'm gonna stop trading for the day, I have stopped trading for the day, no matter what happened. And every time I've taken a loss, I have posted that loss, because once I stop doing that, there's a risk that I will not learn from any potential mistake that was in that loss or whatever. I mean, you can trick your mind in so many ways. So just do it. You need to make yourself a favor and just be honest and stay true to what you're actually doing. Because if you can't be honest with yourself, there's no way you will be able to be profitable in trading.
Completely agree. So you just have, like, on your Instagram, it's basically a public journal, right?
Yeah.
You know, some people, and some people, like you said, use Discord sometimes to keep them accountable with the people in Discord. You said sometimes that doesn't really work as much for you, but you know, so whatever works for you. Trading is so unique. It's such a great skill where you can kind of go about it with whatever way works best for you. So that's a good perspective too. Love it. Okay, well, thank you so much for sharing your screen. We can go ahead and go back out here. So do you have a memorable trade or like a memorable loss or win?
Yeah. So I think it was like spring of last year.
Okay.
So this was way before I was consistent or profitable in any matter. So I had this, I think it was as a long on US 500 probably. And I took it before, I think it was before Jerome Powell, a Powell speech, something like that, right? And obviously I was so confident in my trade idea, so that wasn't an issue at all. And what ended up happening was I lost. I didn't lose the entire account, or it was nothing like that. It's just I lost 2R instead of 1R in an instant. There was no, I was getting slipped, right?
Right.
That might not sound bad to a lot of people. I mean, 2R, how much is that? It's not that it was a lot of money. It's just that trade really messed me up. And I stopped trading there and then for probably a couple of months. I didn't stop looking at the charts. I just stopped trading. I couldn't trade. So that, unfortunately, my most memorable trade is a bad trade.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I know you mentioned earlier you got a performance coach. Sorry. What made you get a performance coach, and how did you even find one?
So I realized that if I wanted to become serious and actually achieve my goals in trading, I need to work on my psychology, because okay, you start with a technical analysis, right? You need to learn whatever you need to learn there. But once you're kind of done there, you start to realize that your trading, it doesn't work. For some weird reason, you can't be a profitable trader just off technical analysis, because there's someone in here telling you that you should do stuff that you really shouldn't. So yeah, I had followed this guy on Instagram for a long time. He's a performance coach. He always posts about like psychology, and psychology and trading, and how you should approach trading and all that. So he has this accelerator program, it's called, where you basically just go through an intensive psychology course where you regularly talk with the coach and go through your trades, and he basically just makes sure you are developing and you're doing what you're supposed to do. So you get your feedback, and if you're doing something you shouldn't do, someone actually tells you stop doing it, or whatever. There's no bullshit there. Everything that needs to be said is said. So yeah, that's for anyone who has that possibility, just go for it. I've seen, so this is a Swedish guy, but I've seen there's tons of good traders out there that has similar coaching programs, and I can recommend everyone to do that. They are often very expensive, but yeah, that it's worth it.
Yeah, like you said, it's an investment.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it really is an investment. Yeah.
Okay, how long have you been with the coach?
So this is since August. Yeah, since August.
Okay,
this year. So it's fairly new, right? But I mean, it's if I compare my trading from them with what I'm doing now, it's night and day. It's not comparable. I had found somewhat consistency before that. I mean, I wasn't making tons of money or anything. I was pretty much break even. I think there's a lot of break even traders out there, and if you're break even, I think it's because of psychological issues, because everyone else seems to be losing their money. So you're at least managing to keep your money. That says something. Obviously, you have some sort of edge in the markets, but there's something missing, and that might just be the mental part, the mental game that's a little bit off, and it just needs someone to help you for the way.
And like you said, like a psychology performance coach, almost said psychology coach, a performance coach, they can be a little bit expensive. So for our new traders that are on a budget, what can you suggest for them to do to work on their psychology in the meantime?
The most obvious answer here is just read Trading in the Zone with Mark Douglas, 100%. But if you're not a huge reader, which I'm not a huge reader, so what I would suggest is just focus on what's the most important, and what's most important to grasp early is the probability thinking, right? So wherever Mark talks about probabilities, that's what you need to focus on, because if you can truly understand that, everything becomes so much easier. I mean, you can even take a statistics course if you want to. I mean, that will help you too. I've taken statistics courses in uni, and that has honestly gave me some insight to how I should approach trading. They don't talk about trading there, of course, but probability thinking, that's probably the most important thing.
Have you read any other books besides Mark Douglas?
I mean, I have listened to some. I don't actually remember all the names of all the books, but to be honest, when I read most of these books or listened to them, this was at a time that I didn't take trading seriously enough, so I don't actually know how much impact they had. Everyone tells you to read books, and especially Trading in the Zone, which is a good book, but that's not going to help you if you're not willing to give it what it takes. Reading a book is not simply just going to make you a profitable trader. Having a performance coach is not going to do that either. It's up to you. It's always going to be up to you.
Yeah, you have to do the work. Yeah, exactly. I agree. Okay. And for you, I know you're pretty busy. You said you don't spend so much time in the market because you're doing other things at school. So for you, what would be like an ideal trader life for you? Like, if you can imagine it, what would be like your day to day when you wake up?
I mean, honestly, I would just have I would want to have a trading floor that I go to trade with other people, just treat it like any other business. I don't want I don't want to live on the beach and trade from my phone or anything stupid like that. I want to do it on an institutional level. Let's just say that. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. So with that being said, like what's your goals coming up? What's your future goals within your trading career?
My future goals is just to be able to do this, really, to do this for a living. That's my main goal, because if I can do this, there's nothing stopping me from doing anything else that I want to do. I mean, this is like running your own business. We just don't create any value. But yeah, I've always wanted to have my own business, but I realized that I'm not probably the best person I don't see myself as the greatest entrepreneur or anything like that. So when I found trading, that was the perfect thing for me, really.
Yeah. I mean, you can even use trading as a vehicle to dabble into business. Like you may not be the best entrepreneur, businessman right now, but when you have all that capital at your disposal, eventually, you can try things out. So I love that.
That's exactly. Yeah. So when people say freedom, when it comes to trading, that's what freedom actually means. Freedom doesn't mean you can take a vacation whenever you want. That's not freedom. It's freedom to do to work however you like, really. That's the freedom.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. Well, do you have any more tips for new traders coming in that want to be funded?
Don't be too eager to start your first challenge, because that always ends badly in one way or another. You need to take your time. For technical analysis, my tip would just be to look at ICT's 2022 mentorship, which is free on YouTube. Just go through that and let it take its time. Test whatever strategy you come up with, demo trade it, and once you can see some consistency in your demo trading, if you want to go straight to funding firms, there's no issue with that, because there really is one fee you have to pay, and then there's zero risk after that. So the risk to reward for funding firms is really high. So you don't have to wait too long. You just need to be somewhat consistent, I guess.
All right. Well, thank you for that. And thank you for taking the time out to talk with me. I know it's nighttime, you're in Sweden. So I appreciate your time, and I hope you have a great night. And yeah, I'm looking forward to see what you do next. Thank you for joining us with another SFT interview. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll be interviewing you next.